Hello, I'm Neil Bonnett. We just completed production of our winner's episode on champion driver Alan Kulwicki when a tragic plane crash took his life. Alan told me how much he really wanted to do this show, and I know how much he wanted you to see it. If you're a graduate engineer from Milwaukee, if you're an intense loner with a Polish name, you're not necessarily at the top of the A list for entry into Winston Cup Drivers Club. If you set out to compete with the big boys as owner driver and you do it without a major sponsor, you're not a particularly strong favorite to spend a lot of time in victory lane. If you think you can be champion, think some more. Well, folks, I got one for you. He did it all. He went the whole way, and he did it his way.
In a certain sense, you know, I've sort of lived the American dream, maybe, you know, to be able to start from nothing and work your way up to this level and accomplish this. And I'm the guy that a lot of the people that pull for the underdog might pull for me, and I'm not the perennial favorite or the guy that's won it 5 times before.
This winner's name, as you probably guessed by now, is Alan Kulwicki. I'm Neil Bonnett. We'll have his story when we come back.
Winners is brought to you by Fram Filter Products. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. And Autolite Spark Plugs and wire and cable products. Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you go.
Oil. It's the lifeblood of your engine. That makes your oil filter your engine's most vital organ. That's why Fram keeps going the extra mile to make the best protection even better. The Fram Extra Guard oil filter. Unique glass fiber paper stops more dirt than any other filter for the best protection ever. Fram Extra Guard, American or import, it's an extra lease on life.
You say your eyes are red, irritated, dry? Don't hide them. Help them with Clear Eyes. It gets rid of the redness and has an extra moisturizing ingredient, too. Clear Eyes. And for allergies and colds, Clear Eyes ACR.
I'm getting older, so I have to push myself just a little bit harder.
Introducing a new, hard-working Power Stick. Now with more odor fighters per stroke than ever.
Hey, that's better for me and everybody else.
New Power Stick from Fabergé, the most powerful Power Stick ever.
The laboratories of 2001 announced a major breakthrough in auto protectant technology, Formula 2001 Super Protectant. Its advanced SunStop formula helps protect against the sun's UV rays, extreme temperatures, and moisture, which cause fading, drying, and cracking. What's more, independent lab tests prove Formula 2001 provides a more brilliant, longer-lasting shine than Armor All on vinyl and leather. But what if your car's surfaces are already faded? We went to the Arizona desert to put Formula 2001 Super Protectant to the ultimate test. Watch what happens to UV faded vinyl, rubber, even dried faded leather. Get the new standard in automotive protectant technology, the one with 50% more active shining ingredients than Armor All. Formula 2001 Super Protectant with a fresh leather fragrance. And for the unique demands of tire care, get new Formula 2001 Tire Foam and Shine. Just spray and walk away. Get 2001 at these fine stores.
Whoa, whoa, don't be messing with that dial. You're in the right place. You're right here in Hueytown, Alabama. Folks, when the 1992 season opened at Daytona, the favorite to win the championship would probably be Dale Earnhardt, maybe Rusty Wallace, or even Darrell Waltrip. Certainly not Alan Kulwicki. The previous year, 1991, Alan finished 13th in the point standings, and he started that year without a real sponsorship deal. But in 1992, it was a whole different story for Kulwicki. He came to Daytona and had to start 41st in the 500, but he charged all the way up to 4th at the finish behind Davey Allison. Then at Richmond, he ran a tight second to Bill Elliott. He racked up victories at Bristol and Pocono and 6 Busch pole wins. It all came down to Atlanta in what many have called the most dramatic championship battle ever. In that race, he finished second to Bill Elliott by just a whisker. But Allen had led the most laps. By virtue of that, he won the Winston Cup title by just 10 points. Just 6 years after heading south from Wisconsin with just a car and a truck and a dream, owner-driver Kulwicki had won it all. He had gained the biggest victory in stock car racing. He's different from most of the Winston Cup drivers. For one thing, he's a northerner. For another, he's got a college diploma.
Well, I think I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and I think that helps me understand the cars better. It takes some of the guesswork out of them. In the long run, I think that's a real asset. You know, I wouldn't trade that education for anything. I can't say that I've designed anything revolutionary on these cars, and I don't even profess to be the smartest person out there, but I have a reputation of being pretty good at setting up the chassis on the cars, and I think that engineering background has really helped in that respect.
Alan Kulwicki began his career in Wisconsin, where he grew up. He raced in town us Southerners never heard of. Slinger, Hales Corner, Oshkosh. Well, we know that one by gosh. He was born in Milwaukee, a place known for beer and Polish sausage. He learned auto racing from his family. His father, Gerald, was a top engine builder on the USAC circuit who worked with 6 championship teams. And they went more than 6 consecutive seasons without an engine failure. Alan's reserved father didn't push his equally reserved son into a race car.
I didn't want him to get, right out of high school and jump into the race car and, go full-time racing. So I just encouraged him to get an education, and if he wasn't cut out to be a race driver, and if things didn't go right, he always had something to fall back on. So that's what he did, and I think he's very glad that he did it that way.
If your dad wasn't all that enthused about your racing, when you did go through the college and you got the degree and you worked on through there, you think that relieved some of the pressure from him and, hey, let him try the racing side?
Probably. I think when he realized that this kid's going to do it one way or another, whether I support him in it or whether I don't, eventually he started coming around, and now he probably is one of my biggest fans. He comes to some of the Winston Cup races, and he gets, I can tell he gets a lot of pride out of it.
All successful Winston Cup drivers go through a lot on their way to the top, but few have the intestinal fortitude and the skill to do it on their own like Alan Kulwicki. The toughest trials came early and were very tough indeed. He was devastated by the loss of his mother, then his brother, and his grandmother.
No one would choose to have things happen that way in their life. My mother died when I was in 2nd grade. My dad and I lived with my grandmother. She helped raise us, and she died when I was in 7th grade. My brother died when I was in 8th grade. So I'd have to say that was a lot of adversity to deal with that early in life, and I never would have chose that. I wish, I could have kept more of that family together. But somehow or another, in the long run, I think that did make me more determined. The fact that I had to maybe get out there and do some more things for myself, or, stand up for myself a little bit more. I think in the long run that made me more determined and a little bit tougher. And like I said, I wouldn't have chosen it that way, but maybe some good things did come out of it.
That determination and toughness certainly helped Alan Kulwicki become the first owner driver since Richard Petty to win the Winston Cup championship. Alan made his commitment to NASCAR Winston Cup racing in 1985. The next year, after moving to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, he won the Rookie of the Year title. But it was in 1991 that his team got the big boost that it needed. They got a sponsor. Alan Kulwicki is very focused on keeping his team in high gear. He's also conscious of his image with his fans, but doesn't really sense what he actually means to them. Greenfield, Wisconsin, that's a suburb of Milwaukee, declared Alan Kulwicki Day in January. Alan told friends he was afraid to go back because he thought there wouldn't be but 37 people waiting. Well, there were a lot more than 37. Estimates of the crowd that turned out at Greenfield High School range from 6 to 10,000. They stood in line for hours just to get a chance to talk to him or to get an autograph. Alan responded. He missed his flight to spend extra time with his fans, and at day's end, he had signed his name about 1,200 times.
I seem to get a lot of fan mail from people that say, I really look up to you, I admire you, the way you did things. And not just in racing, not just other race car drivers, but, you know, people that would say, you know, when things get tough, I think about the things that you went through to get to this point, and, you know, it's given me a little inspiration to go on and finish my education, to go on and try to get a promotion in my job, to go to night school, whatever. You know, I get a lot of letters from people that, you know, say that, you know, they found inspiration in that in other areas of their life. And there's a lot of satisfaction that it makes you feel good to know that maybe you can have a positive influence on other people.
One person who's seen that positive influence since 1988, when he became Alan Kulwicki's crew chief, is Paul Andrews. Paul started in the racing business back in the mid-70s with Rusty Wallace. Then and now, Paul is known for his hard work, just like Alan, his current boss.
You know, we both work hard, but we both want to get things done. I mean, just kind of like whatever it's going to take to get it done. Sometimes you have to work a little harder, or sometimes you can take off it here or there, but most of the time you got to keep working.
Paul Andrews and Gerald Kulwicki know Alan very well. Gerald Kulwicki can tell you what makes his son a winner.
His desire and persistence. He just very serious about it. Wants to do a good job. He does. That's why he's been with everything. He just do the best he can. You know, if he got into racing, he wants to win the race. If he wins the race, he wants to win the championship, and he just keeps setting goals and just keeps going higher and higher.
Alan Kulwicki has been called many things: dedicated, focused, hard-working, distant, remote, even callous. But his crew chief sees another side.
He's always talking about or thinking about racing or sponsors or whatever it is. There's always something about the race team. But he can be a real nice, very personal person.
A lot of people say, well, he's pretty quiet or he's really shy or something like that. When I'm in the garage area, I'm not there to socialize. Doesn't mean that I can't be friendly to people, but I'm not there to socialize. I'm there to work on the car. I'm there to try to make my car run better than the next guy's. Coming up to me in between practice sessions is like coming up to a prize fighter in between rounds, you know. Maybe that's not the time you want to approach me sometimes, but I'm just intense in what I'm doing.
The stirring story of the hard life and hard times of our brave hero, Alan Kulwicki. How good triumphed over evil and Dale Earnhardt will continue after this.
Brought to you by Performax from Pennzoil, the new synthetic motor oil that protects to the max.
What makes Jiffy Lube America's favorite oil change? Over 45,000 satisfied customers a day say it's because of the service. You get trained technicians who take good care of you and your car, plus the performance, protection, and quality of Pennzoil motor oil. So you get top quality service. You and your car deserve the best. So take it to number one. Take it to Jiffy Lube.
Drive in every 3,000 miles.
Pocono Raceway is celebrating 20 years of Winston Cup racing with a Motorsports Country Fair. The Mountain Magic Jamboree, August 14th through the 22nd, will feature Weir motorcycle racing, amusement rides, fireworks, thrill shows, Winnebago RV Rodeo, Vintage Cars and Auto Festival, Winston Cup drivers and souvenirs, plus stage shows featuring Marie Osmond August 20th, Gary Morris the 21st, and Lee Greenwood the 22nd. Advance purchase discount tickets available at Ticketmaster. For details, call Pocono Raceway at 1-800-RACEWAY. Be part of the Mountain Magic Jamboree at Pocono Raceway, August 14th through the 22nd.
When is a stamp not just a stamp?
Stamp, this is a legend.
When is a stamp not just a stamp?
When it's really cool.
A stamp is more than a stamp when it's worth hanging on to.
When it means something to you.
But stamps you want to hang on to don't hang around your post office long. So call for this free catalog. You'll find this year's best stamps, past favorites you might have missed, plus great gift ideas. Call for our free catalog now. So, when is a stamp not just a stamp? When is a stamp not just a stamp?
When it's the heavyweight stamp of the world!
New Joe Louis stamps. They're at your post office for a few rounds only. Or call for our free catalog.
Coming up this Sunday morning on Race Day, we'll have the usual news from around the world of motorsports, including the SCCA Trans Am stop in Canada, along with the Winston Cup Series return to oval racing in Michigan. We'll have the latest on which drivers are going where in NASCAR, and we'll do all that live from Pocono, Pennsylvania, where the Western Eastern Road Race Association is holding one of its biggest events of the year. Be sure to join us for Race Day.
Race Day, 2 different editions, 11:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Eastern, TNN Motorsports Sundays.
I had a TV producer once who used to tell me, no one ever said it was going to be easy. He dropped out of sight, and I haven't heard from him in years. It wasn't easy for Alan Kulwicki at the first 92 Dover race, but he's still very much in the spotlight.
The low point of our season had to be Dover. I mean, I think I bent one front stub all year long in all the other races, and I bent 8 clips, front and rear stubs, just at the Dover racetrack in 2 races. You know, we crashed twice in practice in the first race, and, you know, that really hurt my confidence. You know, we were on a 3rd car when we ran that race and managed to run that race without any problems, get a decent finish, come back the next time, and then the throttle stuck on the thing, crashed in practice again, and that, you know, my confidence was probably at an all-time low. Rolled another car out of the trailer and sat on the pole with it, and that was really an unbelievable day, really up and down, but came back and crashed in the race at Dover again, and, you know, really the crew bounced back from it. You know, I realistically thought our championships were wiped out that day, and remember doing an interview, and I think maybe some people misunderstood me a little bit. Maybe they thought I quit or that I gave up, and I really didn't give up. I just realistically, I didn't know if we could make up that many points that late in the season. But the crew hung in there. They said, "Don't worry about it. We'll fix it. We'll get more cars. Just, you're okay. We'll go on from here." And their ability to bounce back from that was one of the keys to winning that championship.
At the second Dover race, if there was ever a time where we thought that we were out of the championship, that would be the time. When we wrecked during the race at the second Dover race, you know, mathematically we were still in the points race. But realistically, in the normal way the championship runs, you know, we probably wasn't going to win it. But no one gave up. Alan didn't give up. No one in the team gave up and said it was over.
The American Speed Association, ASA, is sort of a minor league for Winston Cup. Its graduates include Rusty Wallace, Dick Trickle, and you guessed it, Alan Kulwicki.
When I was 18, I started out at the local dirt track and just ran dirt and asphalt tracks around home just as a hobby all the while I was going to college. I eventually worked my way up to ASA, the American Speed Association, and that's where I did the majority of my short track racing before I came into NASCAR. And, you know, that's where I learned how to race against guys like Dick Trickle and Mark Martin and Rusty Wallace. And the cars were a lot different than what we race right now, but the one thing that was similar is that the competition was really tough. And when you have other good guys there that you have to beat, you learn how to push yourself harder and harder to try to win a race, to try to become the best.
Alan Kulwicki, I've known him since he's a boy, and in fact, his dad built me an engine way back in the 70s, and you know, Alan come up through the ranks and, you know, more or less come on his own, and you know, he's just a great, you know, racer, you know, all the way from the mechanical end of it to the driving end of it, has total control of what he does want to do with the chassis, and I think you got to give him a lot of credit because he did it his way.
He always concentrated real hard on the chassis. He looked at everything, I guess what I would call logically, you know. He really liked to understand the shock absorbers, the springs, the sway bars, what everything did. And he worked real hard, you know. And all I can say, he's always been a real serious fellow, you know. Real serious, kind of quiet, ask a lot of questions. And you give him your opinion, and then he'd disagree with you. He got to where he was asking so many questions, he was outrunning me, and I was telling my guys, quit telling him everything, you know.
He is motivated, and he keeps his crew that way too, all the time.
In the early stages of my NASCAR career, when I was doing this, I was underfinanced. I was swimming for my life, you know. And you had to kick and fight for everything that you got. There's no way that things were going to be easy. I started with 1 car and 2 engines and 2 full-time people, and you're competing against other teams that have a dozen cars and 30 people. Well, how are you going to beat them? You're going to have to work hard. And some people came and left, but, you know, over a period of time, I found a group of guys that I believe in and believe in me, and we work together well, and I think I treat them well. And I think that any one of them right now would tell you that I'm a pretty good guy to work for. You know, maybe a little bit demanding at times, but, you know, when you win and it pays off, they feel pretty good about it too.
He feels having a degree in mechanical engineering gives him an extra advantage in understanding how his car works. One of Alan's pioneer efforts on the NASCAR circuit was his use of a multi-angle mirror, which is used by most drivers now. In 1989, he developed an exhaust baffling system to cut excessive noise and push carbon monoxide gases from a car's header pipes through ductwork to the back of the car and then out from the garage area. Folks, step into my laboratory and let me give you a demonstration of one law of physics that the 1992 Winston Cup champion Alan Kulwicki would agree with. When you're hot, you're hot. And when you're not, you're not. Now, y'all just think about that, and we'll be back in a minute.
Here we go again, guys. Wow! I feel good. Yeah, this guy really gets around. He's got the auto lights. American Orient Pro, we're guaranteed. I feel good. Yeah, 2 years, no matter how far he goes. That's why we've been everywhere. Vegas. I feel good. Yeah. Daytona, LA, wherever we're going. Yeah! And we're not even tired.
T-Plus engine treatment is made with tough DuPont Teflon, the same coating as on Mother's frying pan. Nothing sticks. This, on the other hand, is an unprotected engine. When you start your engine, metal grinds on metal. But add T-Plus once, and tough DuPont Teflon coats every valve guide, cylinder wall, bearing, and cam, reducing engine wear for up to 50,000 miles. Now you're cooking. Beat the daily grind, add T-Plus. The T is for Teflon.
It's coming. More terror than you've ever felt before. Dare you let it in your library. Stephen King's newest tale of horror, Gerald's Game. Now this beautiful 2350 hardcover is yours for just $7.95 when you join the Stephen King Library. Enjoy Pet Sematary, Cujo, Christine, Academy Award-winning Misery, plus Stephen King's newest books as soon as they're published, all in the original hardcovers, all at just $14.95 each, all with a cancel anytime guarantee. Call now, and Gerald's Game is yours free for 10 days. If you're not terrified, return it and cancel. Otherwise, we'll send you a new volume every 7 weeks, each with a 10-day free trial. There's never an obligation to buy. Summon Gerald's Game now and enter the unearthly library of Stephen King.
Call 1-800-842-4444 now to get Gerald's Game. Keep it and pay $7.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-800-842-4444.
When a driver's just starting out in Winston Cup racing, the big question is, can he win? It took Alan Kulwicki 3 seasons to answer that question affirmatively, and he did it in Phoenix on November 6, 1988. Then, showing that he does have a sense of humor, Alan inaugurated what he calls the Polish victory lap, going the wrong way around the track. He did it again after winning the 1992 Winston Cup Championship with his performance in Atlanta. a contest in which he ran neck and neck with Bill Elliott.
And in the end, the pressure never got to me. I don't think it got to the rest of the team. We just went out and did our job. Everything fell in place. We had a great run that day. We led the most laps in the race. You know, we were a contender to win it, and, you know, had a transmission problem on the first pit stop of that race, and that made me a little bit slow getting out of the pits all day long. And we went from being a second and a half ahead of Bill Elliott to 3 seconds behind him, and couldn't win the race, but we won the championship. And, you know, there'll be other races, but that championship was really the most important thing that day.
That tremendous run in Atlanta pushed Alan Kulwicki right into the spotlight in New York. There he picked up the biggest prize and the biggest paycheck in stock car racing, the Winston Cup, and more than $1 million. Alan refers to that evening as probably the best night in his life because he fulfilled the biggest dream of his life.
Probably the one thing that's gotten me where I am today is just persistence, perseverance. Just never quit, never give up, work at it. If it doesn't happen, work at it some more until it does. And that's the only way I know how to do things.
Alan has a lot of fans, and I asked him how he'd like to be remembered by them.
Well, I can't win the most races. I'm never going to equal Richard Petty's mark. I'm never probably going to win the most championships, but I've done it a little bit different than the way other people have, and I've done it the way some people said I couldn't. And I'd like to be remembered that way, as a guy that was really determined, that worked really hard, and I'd just like them to respect me for being a good, clean race car driver and for having earned what I got out of the sport. And I'd like to give a little something back to it before I'm finished. I'd like to have a positive effect on some other people, you know, maybe as being a good role model to kids.
Alan, that's how you will be remembered. A real champion, an ultimate winner. I'm Neil Bonnett.
Winners has been brought to you by Fram Filter Products. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. And Autolite Spark Plugs and wire and cable products. Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you go.
World of Outlaws champion Sammy Swindell has left the dirt and moved to Busch Series racing. Next week on Winners, we talk about the move.
NHRA Today.